Besides the occasional Indonesian trader or an English sailor, the majority of indigenous people had never seen other humans before. They had a strong connection with the land and lived peacefully together. However, in Europe in the 18th century, things were getting out of hand. It was overpopulated and they needed more land. So in 1788, Captain James Cook sailed a fleet of 11 ships to Australia. Upon arrival, the Europeans encountered indigenous tribes who tried to scare them away with spears. However, the Europeans had guns and easily beat the Aboriginals. Conflict continued between the indigenous people and the British. The Europeans were using more and more of their land for farming and settlement, which the Aborigines saw as disrespect. Many Aborigines were also being killed and displaced. The British thought of the Aborigines as nomads. They thought that driving them off the land would just mean they would be happy somewhere else. The Europeans also brought with them diseases, such as smallpox, chickenpox, influenza and measles. Because Aborigines had never experienced disease like these, catching one was often fatal. The initial response to the arrival of the Europeans was to be aggressive in order to scare away the British. However, Captain Cook wanted to befriend the Aborigines. He tried to make friendly contact and was disappointed that whites could not live harmoniously with the indigenous people. However, because they had no way to communicate and lived very different lifestyles with different traditions and cultures, they didn't get along very well. Some Europeans tried learning the Aborigines' language. Others became friends with them and were taught useful skills, such as guiding them through the bush. However, some felt superior to the Aborigines and felt little need to learn their language or try to communicate. Likewise to Europeans, Aborigines saw little point in learning the European ways. They didn't need to farm, or have religion, or learn to read and write. Their difference in cultures and ideas on lifestyles caused many problems. There were many battles between the Aborigines and the English settlers. Violence began several months after the first fleet arrived. These conflicts then lasted 150 years. They started when the settlers began acquiring more and more land. However, another factor was also the lack of communication between both cultures. Aborigines were misunderstood, and not being able to communicate was a reason why. Only in the late 1900s were they finally accepted.